7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy.
Okay, so I am back with another recap of Umbrella Academy Season 2, Episode 7. Now, I knew that it was going to be, it wasn't going to be that easy, but this episode was actually kind of quite annoying. But okay, so we're going to go ahead. Okay, so number 5, he has time jump to 1982. Okay, so he actually made the deal with the devil. And she gave him the address to where the board was going to be, where they were meeting. And so he jumped to 1982, and basically it was a bloodbath. He ends up killing everyone, even AJ with the fish head. So he brought the fish back as proof, right? So she gives him the device. And then she tells him, okay, you have 90 minutes to get out of this timeline, to use the device. And of course, he's like, okay, you never told me there was a timeline. There was a time frame. And he's like, how the world are we supposed to do that? My family's scattered all over town. And so now it's like, okay, how are we going to get all these people together so that we can all get out of here? So that's the new task now. Okay, so Klaus and Ben are kind of having a standoff. So Ben is waiting for Klaus to fall asleep so he can possess his body so that he can talk to Jill. And so Klaus is basically, how he's just having a difficult time, and how the man that, he just lost the man that he loves, and da-da-da-da. And he reluctantly agrees to let Ben use his body. Okay. So Sissy and Vanya, so they're back at the house. They're trying to pretend like everything is normal, but of course Carl already knows what's going on. And so Sissy, she's making breakfast, and she said, well, I need to take Carlin in for a check. He has a doctor's appointment. And then we can go to, and Vanya can come, we can go to the park later. He was like, well, no, I need Vanya to come with me. I need her to help me with something. And so Sissy ends up leaving to take him, and Vanya obviously stayed behind. So Allison is, the next morning, and Allison, she's kind of, you can see she's deep into thought. She's worried about something, and Raymond comes down and says that his meeting, they're sitting, got the attention of Kennedy, and someone from his office called to set up a meeting with this group, and he was getting dressed to leave for that. And just before he left, she, told him that she loved him, and he walked out. And so, number 5, he, okay, so, no. So Diego and Luther, they're trying to figure out what Olga, and that's what the message that was like, Olga for Olga. And so, first, Diego was like, this is the FBI something. And Luther was like, if this was like a real government organization, they would have taken the body. They wouldn't have left the body behind. And so they look in away pages and find some woman named Olga for Olga. And as Diego's on the phone threatening this woman like, we're going to kill you. We're going to find out what where you are, and we're going to kill you. Da da da. At this time, number 5 arrives with the device, and he tells them that Olga is Swedish for an eye for an eye. So of course he has to get off the phone with this woman. I'm like, these people are some clowns. They're clowns. So no, God don't know what that woman is thinking. Somebody just called her out of the blue and threatened to kill her. But okay. So he shows up covered in blood, and they're like, okay, what the hell? What the hell happened to you? So back at the agency, everyone is kind of congregating in the stairwell, and the handler, she's making the announcement that the entire board had been killed, and she's going to have to assume leadership of the agency. And if anyone needs any grief counseling, you will need to do that on your own time, because their company does not provide that. That's out of network. And so she asked if anyone had any questions, and then of course people raised their hands, and of course she wasn't gonna stand and answer no damn questions, so she just walked off. Okay. So number 5 is telling Luther and Diego that he was able to come up with this plan to get them all home, that they have so much time, and that they need to gather everybody up. So they all decided who they were going to get, and what their task was going to be. And Diego was like, wait a minute, you come here covered in blood and you think that we're not going to ask you? And he basically like, we don't have time for this. And so Diego wanted to talk to Lila, and number 5 told him, look, she works for the agency, she was setting you up to get to me, and you need to let this go. And Diego's like really pressing this, like he needs to talk to her. And number 5 was basically like, I will kill you myself. Like, we only have so much time, and she's not thinking about you. She doesn't care about you, and you need to let that shit go. And I think he was going to get Klaus, and you need to go and get Klaus. So Ben has now possessed Klaus, and he's able to like touch and feel things now, like the grass beneath and the dirt beneath his feet, and he's able to touch plants, and it was just a whole new experience for him because he has been able to do that for a while. And so he finally catches up with Jill, and they're just kind of mucking around and just having a good time. So Carl and Vanya, so they arrive at this farm because he said he had to go up to this farm to do something. And so they get up there, and of course he starts talking to her about some disease that happened some time ago that they end up having to kill all the cattle and all that. And with disease you have to kill, you have to get it before it spreads. And Vanya was like, what I am is not a disease. He said maybe, but it's unnatural. And basically he gave her the keys to the car and told her that by the time he gets home that he want her gone. And he want her to stay away from his family. And he even threatened to send, if she doesn't leave, he even threatened to send Harlan away to a special school or institution or something. Of course, she doesn't want that to happen. And so she's, kind of torn, but she took the keys and the car and she left. So Luther gets to Allison's house, and he basically tells her that it's time, they found a way to get home, and that she just come with them now. And of course, she's kind of scared because she's like, okay, First, she was excited because she's like, I could see my daughter, I could be holding my daughter, by this time tonight or something like that. And he was like, of course, he was like, yes, you will be back home. And then of course she starts getting scared because she's like, okay, wait a minute, what if something happens again? And so she's torn between what she hopes that she will be able to have in the future, which is go back to her life and her daughter, and what she could potentially be losing now with the life she's built with Raymond. It's like they could end up, the timeline could spit them out anywhere, and this time they will, could lose each other forever. And so she's really just kind of torn about what to do. And so of course Raymond, he comes back home, and of course she's kind of upset. He's asking Luther like, okay, well, what's going on? Why is she so upset? And so we flash to Jill and Ben. So they started talking, and she was like, well, you're kind of different, you're kind of dorky. And he was telling her how he feels about her, her hair and all that. He even asked to smell her hair, and things was about to go down. Diego shows up, is like, we need to go. So they are walking, and Diego's talking to Klaus, and Klaus, well, Ben is like, I'm not Klaus, I'm Ben. And he was like, you know what, you must be high. This is Diego talking to Klaus, you must be high. He was like, no, ask me something that only Ben would know. And so he did, and so he confirmed that he was Ben. And of course Diego was so happy that his brother was there. And he was like, wait a minute, he said that nobody came to the timeline. Ben was like, Klaus is a liar, he's just crazy. And so Ben felt like he should tell the followers that he was leaving. And initially Diego was like, no, let's we need to go. And then Diego was like, no, it's something I have to do. And so they agreed to meet in the alley in like 30 minutes. Okay, and they part ways. Okay, so the handler, she's now back in her office, and she put the little fish in the fish bowl, and was just basically talking to him about it. Basically the same spiel that he was giving her about her parking space and benefits and all that kind of stuff, clowning. And so Lila was standing there like, do I really have to be here for this? And she was like, so she ended up giving her a gift. And when she opened it, she was like, she made her head of security. And Lila was, of course, she was excited. And she was like, only if I get to choose my own team. And so her mom was like, sure, you've earned it. So, Vanya is on her way to the house, and her and number 5 pass each other. And so, of course, they stop and get out of the car. Number 5's like, you need to come with me. Vanya's like, no, I can't leave Sissy, and we need to bring them with us. And he was like, we can't bring them with us. We don't know how that's going to affect the timeline. And Vanya was like, no, bringing a one woman and her kids can affect, is insignificant. And number 5 was like, no one is insignificant. Like, we don't know how this is going to impact it. And so they were about to actually use their powers on each other. And he basically, they parted ways, and she was going to go and get Sissy and Harlan, and he went on with the device to the alley to wait for everybody just to come to him. And so she, that's when they part ways. Okay, so then Diego, and somehow Lila found out where Diego was, and the thing he had to do was he wanted to bury Ellie. I guess he figured that's the least he could do for all that the guy had done, and he just didn't want to leave him there to rot. And so him and Lila talking, and basically he was asking her, why would you lie to me, and he really didn't want to talk to her. And then she saw Elliot, and she was like, oh, he was, is this the guy from the office? And no, he was, I started to like the guy, and it's kind of sad to see him go. And then she takes this flask and drinks, or appears to drink from it, and she gives it to Diego. Diego is just he gets on my nerves sometimes. So you already know you can't trust this woman, but he takes this flask and drinks from it, and of course she drugs him, and now he's passed out. So that takes Diego off the board for the time being. So he's definitely not going to make it to the alley so they can, leave that timeline. So she drags him off somewhere. Raymond and Allison. So Allison is like, I got 23 minutes to meet up with my family so that I can leave. And she wanted him to come with her. And he was like, she was telling him that, things are a lot better, but there are still problems. And he was like, well, he wanted to go with her, but he was like, my fight is here. This is my time here. This is where I need to be. And, she, came to terms with that. And then there's a knock at the door. She opens the door. It's the 2 assassins. Obviously, they knew her powers. He actually, punched her in her throat to temporarily disable her. And so this fight ensues. And she ends up using her powers to convince one of the brothers to kill the other. And the other guy runs off. So now they're down to 1. So they started at 3, and there was only 1 left. And so Vanya gets to the house, and she's telling him, okay, we need to get Harlan, and we need to go now. And Sissy's like, I can't do this. I just can't just leave. And she was like, Harlan knows about us. And he threatened to send Harlan away. And we need to leave, and we need to leave now. She's like, I need to leave from no. She was like, we don't have time for that. And so they're about to leave out the door, and then she runs. Like, oh, she forgets about this coffee can. In the first episode, she was talking about this coffee can, and she was stashing every spare dollar she could. So she goes get this coffee can, and so she can get this money. And so now they're on their way. And so Luther, number 5, and Klaus, they're in the alley. And at this point, number 5 was waiting for everybody else to arrive. Allison is still, dealing with the aftermath of the fight, and of course there's still this dead body in Raymond's house. So like, she can't really just leave the dead body there. So of course we know Allison's not gonna make it. Vanya and Sissy, they're in the car. They're on their way to the alley, but then as they get to the end of the road, the road is blocked off by police cars. And then Sissy says, "Oh, I left him a note." So we already know how this is gonna go. But while this is going on, you got Diego. He wakes up, and Lila introduces him to her mother, the handler. So of course he knows who she is. And so like, 5 told him, but Diego is just whatever. Anywho, So a fight ensues between Vanya and the cops. Eventually, she gets distracted, and they end up knocking her out. And Sissy gets out of the car and runs to her to kind of help her, but she's unconscious at this point. So at this point, the timer goes off, and number 5, he ends up throwing the case because he doesn't want the portal to open up. I guess near them, it could possibly suck him. I don't know. And now they're sitting there like that was their one chance to get home to possibly avert all of this. And so Luther and number 5 is there. Klaus is there, but Klaus is just Klaus is being Klaus. And yeah, that's pretty much how this episode ends. Now, of course, there's 3 more episodes, so of course we didn't think that they would actually make it back to their we know that the fight goes down in 63. But this episode was kind of frustrating. It was just a bit much, especially Diego. Oh boy. Anywho, so now Diego knows who Lila was, despite the fact that number 5 told his ass several times, but he didn't want to hear that. But here we go. So Diego is God knows where. Allison is still at the house because, of course, they can't. She can't just leave this dead white man in Raymond's house. So they got to figure out what they're gonna do with that. And Vanya is knocked out, and we don't know what they're going to do with her in the upcoming episode. I can't imagine they would have anything in 1963 that could restrain her. But at the present, she's incapacitated, and so not a whole lot they can do with that. And so, yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it for this episode. I will talk to you guys later.